Hugo Chavez was reelected to another, I think it's a 6-year term down there in Venezuela. And, I talk a lot about democracy, and a lot of people think that the most important thing is that you are a democracy. Well, Venezuela is a democracy, and look at what they just reelected. Basically a socialist, a dictator, communist, whatever you want to call him. But Hugo Chavez is ruining Venezuela. I mean, he's nationalized key industries, basically theft. He's stolen industries, right, on behalf of the people. And how is it that Hugo Chavez is able to get elected? Well, he's elected for the same reason that a lot of politicians in America get elected. He promises the voters something for nothing. And the voters vote for it. I mean, this is democracy in action. You get guys like Hugo Chavez democratically elected in power. Now, people say, well, if people vote for it, we believe in democracy, we believe in one man, one vote, regardless of who people end up voting for. Well, the people in Venezuela who are voting for Hugo Chavez, in many cases, are very similar to many of the people who are going to be voting in our election, voting for President Obama, because he promises free stuff. Now, right now, Chavez is able to hand out a lot of free things because the state nationalized and took over all the mines, all the oil industries, and so for now, there are profits that the state has to dole out. Of course, over time, those profits will dwindle as the state runs these enterprises into the ground. But in the short run, there is money coming in, and Chavez gets to be the hero who doles it out to the people who vote for him. But, of course, what the people in Venezuela don't understand is that had Hugo Chavez not nationalized all these industries and stolen private property, had Chavez simply allowed a free market to allocate resources and capital in Venezuela, had he simply made his government smaller, the country would be far more prosperous based on a more effective private market utilization of its vast resources. Combine that with free market capitalism, the people who think that Chavez is their savior would understand that he's not their savior at all. He is condemning them to a life of poverty. And in the short run, sure, they vote for this, but there is a disaster coming in Venezuela. There's a disaster coming for their currency. Their currency will collapse. The economy will implode. But in the short run, this despot is returned to office based on popular demand. And it shows you the flaws, the inherent flaw in a democracy. This is what happens. And this is what is happening in America. It's the same dynamics at place. It's the same mentality that returns Hugo Chavez to power because the electorate, they're basically a bunch of fools. They don't know. They vote for something that sounds good. They don't understand that just because it sounds good doesn't mean that it is good. You've had despots elected, all over the world historically. Look at other elections. Look at Saddam Hussein. Look, Adolf Hitler was initially elected democratically in Germany. So just because you have a democracy doesn't mean it's good, right? And in many cases, the reason that the United States prospered was because we were not a democracy. And I mentioned this before, and the Founding Fathers understood the dangers of democracy. They knew that a democracy could elect people like Hugo Chavez. Meanwhile, I heard President Obama wants to erect a statue to the guy. Chavez is Barack Obama's hero. Maybe he's like a role model for him. But the Founding Fathers knew that democracy was dangerous, was an evil form of government, which they called mobocracy. And that's what it is. It's the mob that elects Chavez to power. And the Founding Fathers wanted to protect the American Republic, this new country that they created, that they risked their lives and sacred fortunes to establish. The Founding Fathers wanted to protect us from ourselves. They saw democracy as a huge threat to self-government. They knew that that was a problem, that yes, they wanted self-government. We didn't want America to be a monarchy. We wanted to govern ourselves. but the founding fathers had the wisdom to understand that a democracy does not work and ultimately leads to destruction. Venezuela is destroying itself democratically.